Hey everyone, thank you for joining today's conversation on FinOps 3.0. Today's presentation is brought to you by CloudBolt, the cloud ROI company. The discussion today is going to be focused on kind of the current state of FinOps, some of the challenges that organizations are facing in this space, as well as how automation and artificial intelligence can quickly close the gap on ROI attainment in the cloud. My name is Will Norton. I oversee product marketing here at CloudBolt, and I'm joined by two leaders in our product team. The first is Kyle Campos, who is our Chief Product Officer here at CloudBolt. Before joining CloudBolt, he was the EVP of Technology at Smarsh, where he led enterprise engineering and FinOps teams. He is also an active member of the FinOps Foundation and sits on the board. As well, Ryan Wren, who is our VP of AI ML here at CloudBolt, who is developing our AI and ML initiative as well as our data platform. Ryan has years of experience leading the development, delivery, and support of AI ML surveillance solutions for tier one global banks at Digital Reasoning and later Smarsh. So let's set the stage right now for some of the current challenges and kind of the way of things in the FinOps world. And I think for those of us who are obviously leaders at organizations globally, we are kind of running up against a few things in the market. The first is that total IT budget is growing. So year over year, the estimates from Gartner are about 6% higher in 2024 than last year. And the lion's share of that spend is beginning to come to public cloud, and we're seeing this grow year on year. It's expected to grow from kind of the current state of 17% in 2021, and that's about the average now, around 20%, to grow all the way to 45% in 2026. And that's being accelerated by things like AI, increased data usage, and then overall just more services being used in the cloud. And I think where we sit in most organizations is an increasing focus on operational efficiency and productivity and the demands for just driving more revenue through all things we do. And so it's at the intersection of these pressures that we're seeing a lot of leaders turn to FinOps for not only their public cloud consumption, but also kind of a growing state of priorities. And I think for those of you who are on the ground with your FinOps team, what you're seeing is that it is very difficult to go from what was kind of the first generation of FinOps focuses was really just visibility reporting and some low-level optimization to more kind of digital transformation. And FinOps has been at the tip of the spear on this for a while, but getting to ROI in the cloud, which is really the mandate in current state, is increasingly difficult. And there's some challenges that FinOps leaders are facing. You see some of them here. Costs continue to rise. Business value is something that is not always in focus and not always easy to quantify. The data sets that FinOps leaders are having to kind of pull through are increasing and expanding, and that becomes very difficult. Unified visibility is an issue, especially when you start to bring in hybrid context and things like SaaS, which is a growing demand. And we'll talk a lot about this today. Manual processes still seem to be kind of the Achilles heels of a lot of FinOps teams. And so getting to that cloud ROI can be very difficult. And then for those of us who have used solutions in this space for some time, you'll know that there was, the first generation of cloud financial management tools are nearly a decade old, if not older than that. And across kind of native, first gen, point, and DIY solutions, what we see is that there's been a rapid evolution of FinOps needs and demands, and yet a lot of these solutions have not really kept up the pace. And so there's a breakdown in what FinOps leaders need to kind of get to that cloud ROI and to bring digital transformation to their business, and kind of the tool sets that they're using today to underpin their initiatives. And so we'll talk about how we can kind of break through in the next few slides. I'll hand it over to Kyle to go.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Will. So we'll do a good job of setting the context of spend and the growing sort of obscurity of that spend as teams are pushing it into more and more cloud native services, as AI/ML services start coming into the spend envelope. It's getting more and more difficult for these teams to um, uh, visualize that spend, allocate that spend. Certainly, optimizing that spend comes as a sort of second or third degree problem here. Um, but ultimately, it's the business outcome and business impact that any of these FinOps practices exist for. And the business impact of FinOps right now is constrained by toilsome episodic human activity. Toilsome in the facts that it is difficult and time consuming to weed through a lot of cost and spend data and trends and analyzing. Is this expected? Is this unexpected? Did a new R&D initiative kick off that product teams didn't talk to finance teams about, which happens almost regularly, right? It is up, and because of that pain level and how much human effort it takes, they become episodic, and the time span between that starts expanding. Um, so now, not only is it very difficult for humans to do, but they do it less often. And so the value points that you get, are the times per year that you're actually getting some return on that FinOps investment, becomes less and less. Um, so we have to be able to shift that model out of that human episodic, start using AI and ML driven insights to bring more relevant actions to teams for them to optimize. So what we have here, there's a KPI here that we call the insight to action time. And essentially what that KPI is doing is tracking the moment in time that there is a actionable insight, meaning some data point that demonstrates some level of waste in your business, and the time that it takes to actually resolve that through any reasonable means, right? To rectify that waste. And so there's a few different models here that we have presented. The bottom two follow that episodic pattern here, and this is the dominant use patterns in large enterprises, which is a monthly or quarterly optimization cycle. So in those cycles, there's a few, we call this kind of a value stream, a few different legs of this turnaround time that we track. Um, in a monthly cycle or quarterly, but I'll walk through kind of the monthly example here. The first time delta that you're going to manage is the lead time to insight. So from the point of time it's actually happening in your business to the time somebody gets it in their desk and starts to deal with it, right? So in a monthly cycle, that is by design 30 days. So you're already baking in 30 days of carried waste. Then you have the time it takes for the team of humans to triage and evaluate those data points. And here we have modeled 5 days for that. Then you have time for, okay, now we've triaged and we want our engineers to do some activity. How long does it take from that point in time, filing tickets inside of engineering and waiting for that turnaround to happen? So there's 14 days modeled in here, a couple weeks for that prioritization, which I might add is very, very aggressive in this model. And then the actual time for those engineers to execute once they get it prioritized, right? So even in a monthly cycle, you're on average sitting around 52 days of just burning cash, right? Especially since this is public cloud, this is OpEx models, right? So you are literally burning cash for 52 days off of a insight that already knew what the appropriate action to take was. So in a monthly cycle, that's about 37K. If you take that same practice into a quarterly cycle, that's a little over 100K. And if you contrast that with a continuous, AIML automated driven context, you can see that's cutting out 99+% of that waste for $270, because now you're cutting out all the human activity. Your lead time to insight is less than an hour. And then even if you have a lot of approvals in the action process, say around 12 hours, now your turnaround time from insight to action is 13 hours, not 52 days or 132 days. So that's just the paradigm shift that you deal with when you get out of those Gen 1 sort of solution models and into Gen 2, Gen 3, where we're operating. So I mentioned sort of AI ML driven insights here. So let me talk a little bit more directly around some of the promises of that. So there's a few lenses I'll take this from. The first one is around the actual engagement from your teams, both the FinOps personas, but I'll also bring in engineering personas because we want to avoid that ticketing jail dynamic here of those silos, shouting at each other over a wall or throwing work at each other over the wall. So broadening the engagement and impact of those insights and those actions in a common pane of glass is where this industry is headed, and it's where we deliver value into. So this is enabling FinOps to move beyond what we'd call kind of expert interfaces. So it's a lot of complex data under the hood, a ton of cost and usage data that's flowing into these platforms, and it's a bad current state of the industry that it takes a lot of expertise, a lot of training for FinOps practitioners to be able to get a handle on that and to be able to do any reasonable action from that. So, natural language and conversational interfaces in this space are helping to kind of abstract users from that complexity, bring those insights to the forefront in a more dynamic and low friction way, and broadening the engagement and impact with these data points and these actions is exactly what's needed for you to deliver business impact and elevate your cloud ROI. The second element here, piggybacking off that cloud ROI note here, is FinOps has to be a high leverage organization or practice within your business. And what I mean by high leverage is it has to have many to one outcomes. So if you're growing your team by one human, it can't be 8 hours a day worth of human effort output that you're getting on the other end. It has to be multiples of return back into your business. That was the initial promise of FinOps, that these would be small, high impact teams. And the danger here is that if you don't shift into the new paradigm of AML driven insights and let automated compute power do a lot of that heavy lifting for you, your humans are caught in all the high toil effort, and you'll start getting a more linear or one for one ratio of investment to output out of your FinOps teams. And that's something that I think every business leader needs to be attuned towards, and raising the bar of expectation there. Similarly, the third point here around elevating cloud ROI via that organizational velocity is exactly what you need for maximum sort of business impact. It can't be hallway conversations, relational, fondness between financial teams and engineering teams that your entire ROI is predicated upon. Like, hey, have you met every day? Are you conversing about this new R&D project? That's not the way modern companies, enterprises, certainly engineering and product enterprises are operating. There's a lot of distributed responsibility. People are running very fast, and you need your platforms to be able to metabolize that speed, that organizational speed, and facilitate it, not put in blockers to that velocity. So, diving in deeper into sort of the application of AI in FinOps, I'm going to hand it over to Ryan to go through that.
Thanks, Kyle. So, as we think about achieving the promises that Kyle just mentioned, we here at CloudBolt are approaching and thinking about these in terms of use cases. We're starting with the FinOps practice and then evaluating how these emerging technologies can fit into that practice to drive ROI. And so we've kind of broken it down into a four-pillar analytic taxonomy and aligned that with the inform, optimize, operate life cycle of FinOps, promoted by the FinOps organization. So within the inform or discovery use case, you have descriptive and diagnostic analytics. Essentially, what happened. So being able to in a contextually aware situation, query uh, for insights into your data and be presented with that information and very very quickly and in a language and in a way that you understand. And then the diagnostic is the correlation and causation of why did something happen, being able to quickly connect the dots between an observation and the root cause. As we get into predictive, that's really about forecasting and understanding with machine learning how you can better forecast, better scenario plan around business decisions or strategic decisions around workload placement. And then further into kind of the operational component or the prescriptive, that's setting up those intelligent agents that are able to take action on those observed insights. And so it's really what should be done. And so that's where you get into automated cost optimization, as well as proliferating best practice and being able to provide developers, uh, architects, really stakeholders across the business with the right information at the right time. So when the PR is being created, when the a technology is being adopted, they're getting insights, again, contextually aware, relevant insights about the cost and utilization of those technologies, in real time at the time that they need. So as we put all these pieces together, we've talked about the focus on ROI. We've talked about kind of augmenting the FinOps practice with AI capabilities. The last thing I want to highlight is just really we've seen a lot of really inspiring work done as point solutions and POCs and prototypes of how to stitch these capabilities together. Really, the key right now is to optimize for change. There's new models, new capabilities, new approaches coming out, almost on a weekly basis. We really want to put the practice and structure in place to be able to avail ourselves of those technologies and apply them to the ever growing amount of data and signals that we have, but to do so in a way that we can, evolve and keep, track with those new capabilities to continuously drive the cloud ROI.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and wrap up here. Thanks, everyone. I think the final sort of call to action or encouragement here is we're focused on elevating cloud ROI. I think keep the focus on the business outcomes that are important to you. I would say keep the FinOps practice honest for being a high leverage entity. Be suspicious of manual human behavior in those large lead times, and start leaning into the new paradigm around AI/ML driven insights. So, thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.